Chosen one. This is not a metaphor, not a hopeful phrase, and not a symbolic promise meant to soothe you in a difficult season. This is an announcement. A surprise transfer is coming toward your life, and it has already been authorized beyond the systems you can see. There are moments in destiny when heaven interrupts the ordinary flow of time and declares something before it manifests, not to tease you, but to prepare you. This is one of those moments. What is approaching you is not created by your effort alone, nor is it dependent on human approval. It is a divine movement, released intentionally, arriving precisely, and carrying weight that logic cannot explain. This moment is supernatural, not logical. Logic would look at your journey and conclude that you are still behind, still waiting, still recovering. Logic would count delays, miss chances, and close doors and assume that more preparation is required. But heaven does not consult logic when timing has matured. Heaven responds to alignment. And alignment is something you have quietly walked into without even realizing it. That is why this moment feels sudden. Not because it was rushed, but because it was hidden until it was ready. This transfer is heaven-ordered, not human-earned. It does not originate in your resume, your credentials, or your connections. It originates in obedience, endurance, and unseen faithfulness. It is not a loan that places pressure on you to repay. It is not an investment that demands performance or proof. It is not transactional. You are not being given something in exchange for something else. You are receiving what has already been approved because the season of proving has ended. What you are hearing now is not opinion. It is activation. An opinion informs the mind, but activation awakens the spirit. This message is meant to realign your internal posture with what is already in motion. You were led here because something in you recognizes truth before evidence arrives. That recognition matters. Stay present. Stay open. Stay engaged. Not because attention earns blessings, but because agreement accelerates manifestation. Something has already shifted. You are not waiting for permission anymore. You are standing at the threshold. The source of what is coming toward you is not man, and it is not system-based. It is throne-funded. That distinction is critical because whatever comes from man remains subject to man's limitations, conditions, and reversals. But when God funds something, it is sustained by divine authority and protected by divine intent. The transfer being released into your life did not pass through committees, approval chains, or economic systems. It passed through the will of God, and once that happens, nothing on earth has the power to veto it. This is why human systems are being bypassed in your story. Not because they are evil, but because they are insufficient for the assignment you carry. Some of the doors that never opened were not failures. They were refusals from heaven to let your destiny be funded by something that could later control it. God was protecting your future from becoming dependent on unstable sources. You may not have understood it then, but you were being preserved. Divine justice is the motivation behind this release. Justice is not revenge. Justice is restoration. It is heaven correcting imbalance and returning what was delayed, denied, or diverted. This transfer is not random generosity. It is repayment. It is heaven saying the season of disproportionate effort has ended. Favor is now replacing strain. Alignment is replacing hustle. And when God funds something, there are no strings attached.
No hidden expectations.
No fear of withdrawal. No anxiety attached to the blessing. The peace that accompanies this transfer will be your confirmation. It will arrive stable, clean, and unburdened. That is how you know the source is divine. There is a divine ledger that has been recording your life more accurately than circumstances ever could. While people evaluated you based on visible progress, Heaven evaluated you based on endurance. Every season of obedience, every moment of restraint, every time you waited instead of forcing outcomes was counted. Heaven does not forget faithfulness simply because earth overlooks it. Silence became currency. Rejection became credit. Being misunderstood became investment. There were years when obedience felt unrewarded and patience felt costly. You questioned whether staying quiet was a mistake, whether humility was delaying you, whether faithfulness was being ignored. But heaven was not measuring speed. Heaven was measuring readiness. Now the ledger is shifting from accumulation to reconciliation. This is not a new blessing. It is a settled account. The delay was not denial. It was divine pacing. And repayment does not trickle. It arrives with authority. This is why the timing feels sudden. The preparation happened quietly. The release happens decisively. What once felt like loss was actually storage. And now heaven is opening what was stored in your name. The reason this transfer is a surprise is not because God just decided to bless you. It is a surprise because you could not see how deeply heaven was working behind the scenes. From a human perspective, the math never added up. The doors were closed. The resources were limited. The progress was slow. And yet, heaven was building pathways you could not trace. This blessing will come from directions you never calculated, from sources you did not pursue, from doors that once seemed permanently closed. Years will compress into moments. Favor will replace negotiation. What once required effort will now require discernment. You will not need to beg, chase, or explain. Things will simply align. That is the signature of divine surprise. It bypasses struggle and lands with confirmation. And when it happens, you will know it could only have been God. This transfer is not limited to finances, though it will affect them. It is multidimensional. It includes knowledge you are missing, wisdom that changes how you move, and revelation that unlocks doors you could not see before. It includes strategic connections and covenant relationships that accelerate purpose. It will touch your body, your mind, your emotions, and your spirit. Healing will accompany provision. Clarity will accompany opportunity. And the impact will extend beyond you. This is legacy-level blessing. What arrives through you will affect generations after you. This is not just provision for survival. It is funding for assignment, and it is arriving whole. For a long time, you lived in a space where your identity felt larger than your resources. You carried vision without visible support, calling without confirmation, and anointing without alignment. That disconnect was not an accident. It was protection. Heaven was shaping who you are before it supplied what you would need. But now, that season is ending. You are transitioning from drought to overflow, not because you suddenly became worthy, but because the time has come for your resources to catch up with your identity. What you have always carried internally is now being matched externally, and that alignment changes everything. This shift moves you out of survival mode and into stewardship. Survival asks, how do I make it through? Stewardship asks, how do I manage what I've been entrusted with? You are no longer bracing for loss or guarding scarcity. You are being positioned to manage increase with wisdom and clarity. That is why your mindset has been changing even before circumstances do. You have felt a quiet confidence rising, a deeper sense of stability, an inner knowing that you are no longer scrambling. This is not arrogance. It is alignment. Your vision is no longer hidden. It is becoming visibly funded. What once lived only in prayer, imagination, or private journaling is now stepping into tangible form. This is how chosen identity is confirmed, not by words, but by manifestation. When provision meets purpose, identity solidifies. You will no longer question whether you are called. The evidence will speak for itself. And this shift will feel both exhilarating and sobering because responsibility increases with resource. But you are ready. Heaven would not publicly resource what it had not privately refined. There is a reversal unfolding that you do not need to announce or defend. Those who once doubted you will become witnesses, not because you confronted them, but because the evidence will be undeniable. The delays you endured were not wasted time. They were building a testimony that could not be disputed. When the shift happens, it will be so clear, so precise, that even skeptics will recognize that something divine took place. God is announcing you publicly, not through self-promotion, but through positioning. You will move from being tolerated to being celebrated, from overlooked to sought after. And this will happen without you having to change your character or explain your journey. The reputation shift will be organic, not forced. People will sense the authority on your life before you speak. They will recognize the favor without you pointing to it. This reversal is not about proving people wrong. It is about proving God faithful. The story that unfolds from your delays will inspire others who thought waiting meant failing. Your life will quietly declare that obedience is never wasted. And when people ask how it happened, you will not have a strategy to explain. You will simply stand as living evidence that timing matters and heaven never forgets. With this level of increase comes a necessary warning. Do not sabotage what God is releasing by shrinking to make others comfortable. There will be a temptation to downplay the shift, to over-explain your blessings, to soften your confidence, so others don't feel threatened. Resist that urge. Humility is not hiding. Humility is honoring the source without denying the gift. Let go of old patterns rooted in survival humility, the kind that apologizes for being seen. You are stepping into leadership whether you sought it or not. Expectation must replace hesitation. You must begin thinking, moving, and deciding like someone who knows provision is not fragile anymore. Kingdom wealth is not just financial. It is a mindset of confidence, peace, and authority. This does not mean arrogance. It means alignment. You are not boasting. You are bearing responsibility. Walk accordingly. Speak accordingly.
Decide accordingly.
What is coming requires you to show up fully, not partially. You are no longer preparing to lead. You are leading. Do not expect the transfer to arrive with fanfare. Often, divine movements enter through ordinary moments. A notification, a phone call, an email, a sudden idea that refuses to leave you, an opportunity disguised as inconvenience. Heaven prefers subtle entrances because they test discernment. What looks small at first may carry massive weight. You may hear from people you haven't spoken to in years. You may receive insight that unlocks years of stagnation. Downloads will come quickly, ideas that seem to arrive fully formed. Pay attention. These are not coincidences. They are disguised miracles. The transfer will not always look like money at first. Sometimes it arrives as access, clarity, or connection. But each piece will fit together with precision. Stay open. Don't dismiss what doesn't match your expectations. God often wraps abundance in unfamiliar packaging, so only those who are spiritually alert recognize it. What matters is not how it arrives, but that it does. If you have felt increased pressure lately, fatigue, unusual dreams, emotional tension, spiritual resistance, that is not regression. It is confirmation. Pressure intensifies before breakthrough because positioning is almost complete. Chaos often precedes divine order. The discomfort you feel is not punishment. It is preparation. You are not losing ground. You are being aligned. The resistance is evidence that movement is happening. An irreversible shift has been announced, and the atmosphere around you is adjusting. What feels heavy now will soon lift. What feels unstable will soon settle. This is not the beginning of the struggle. It is the end of it. And once this shift completes, you will not return to the old cycle again. What is happening now is not a temporary breakthrough or a seasonal blessing. This is a permanent recalibration. Old cycles are closing for good, not because you fought harder, but because heaven has declared completion. The version of you that survived on lack, scarcity, and uncertainty has fulfilled its assignment. You will remember that season, but you will not return to it. God is not interested in giving you relief only to send you back into struggle. This is a reset of standards, expectations, and internal measurements of what is normal for your life. Your self-perception is being upgraded first because external increase without internal recalibration creates collapse. You are beginning to see yourself differently, less apologetic, less doubtful, less braced for disappointment. This inner shift changes how the world responds to you. Doors that once resisted you now open with ease. Conversations feel different. Opportunities approach you instead of you chasing them. This is not coincidence. It is resonance. You are now aligned with increase without heaviness. The anointing on your life is changing form. It is no longer just for endurance. It is for expansion. Destiny is replacing struggle. You are not fighting your way forward anymore. You are being carried by momentum you did not create. This is what happens when heaven decides the recalibration is complete. There is no going back because the system itself has been rewritten. This transfer is not only restoring what you lost externally, it is healing what was worn down internally. Years of pressure, responsibility, and silent endurance have left marks on your soul that only divine provision can reach. When God funds a life, He funds the whole person. As the weight begins to lift, you will notice emotional space returning. Rest will feel deeper. Peace will feel unfamiliar at first, then natural. Your identity is being restored, not the version shaped by survival, but the one that existed before disappointment taught you to shrink. Self-worth is being repaired without striving. You will no longer measure your value by output, sacrifice, or how much you can endure. Covenant relationships will begin to replace draining connections. You will feel less obligated to explain yourself and more free to simply exist as you are. Peace will be the confirmation of divine origin. What comes from God does not agitate the soul. It settles it. This wholeness is part of the funding. You are not being upgraded just to do more. You are being restored so you can live whole. That is how you will know this transfer is real. It heals while it provides. With increase comes exposure, and with exposure comes the need for protection. God does not release resources without simultaneously refining access. People will begin to reveal their true motives, not because you interrogate them, but because increase accelerates truth. Some will drift away naturally. Others will suddenly feel uncomfortable around your growth. Do not grieve this. This is insulation, not isolation. Your circle is being refined with precision. Discernment is increasing. You will sense what to engage and what to decline without guilt or explanation. Opportunities that look good but carry hidden cost will quietly close. Others will open with ease and clarity. This is divine guarding. God protects what He funds because stewardship matters. This season is preparing you not just to receive, but to manage. Protection is part of provision. What is meant for you will not require confusion, manipulation, or exhaustion. Trust the filtering. It is making room for what can be sustained. This transfer is larger than your personal comfort or success. It is legacy level. Generational patterns are being interrupted through you. Where limitation repeated, abundance will now flow. Where struggle defined the family story, stability and provision will rewrite it. You are not just receiving for yourself. You are carrying release for your bloodline. Prayers prayed by ancestors you never met are being answered through your obedience. You are stepping into assignment-level provision, funding that supports purpose, not indulgence. Your children and their children will benefit from decisions you are making now. The weight you feel is not pressure, it is significance. You are the vessel because you are willing to endure without becoming bitter. Heaven entrusts legacy to those who remain clean in the waiting. What flows through you will outlive you. That is why this season feels so holy. After years of pouring, striving, and carrying others, you are entering a receiving season. This may feel uncomfortable at first. You are accustomed to being strong, capable, and self-sufficient. But divine funding requires surrender, not effort. You are learning to receive without guilt, without explanation, without needing to earn what has already been approved. Ease is replacing constant effort. Blessing will feel like homecoming, not shock. Divine comfort is settling in where exhaustion once lived. You are being seen, held, and affirmed in ways that words could never accomplish. This is not weakness, it is restoration. Receiving is obedience in this season. Let what comes come. Let yourself be supported. This is not the end of your generosity. It is the beginning of sustainable overflow. You are no longer just the giver. You are the recipient of heaven's decision. What you may be sensing right now is an unusual stillness, not emptiness, not stagnation, but a sacred quiet. This stillness is not punishment for waiting too long. It is confirmation that alignment is complete. Heaven often goes silent just before a major release because movement has shifted from preparation to execution. What feels like pause is actually precision. God is not debating, He is finalizing. In this stillness, distractions fall away. Old anxieties lose their grip. The urge to force outcomes fades. This is because the surge does not require your striving. It requires your readiness. Stillness is heaven's way of saying, stand where you are. Do not move. Do not interfere. You are at the threshold. One step too early would disrupt timing. One step too late would miss acceleration. The surge will not creep in quietly. It will arrive with clarity, power, and undeniable force. This quiet moment is the inhale before the release. Do not misinterpret calm as delay. It is the signal that what is coming cannot be stopped. You are outgrowing old containers, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and practically. Structures that once sustained you can no longer hold what is coming. This is why certain systems are breaking down. Survival-based thinking, scarcity habits, and over-control are being dismantled, not to leave you exposed, but to make room. Discomfort is not failure in this season. It is instruction. God is showing you where expansion is required. Closets need clearing. Schedules need simplifying. Emotional space needs to open. You are being asked to restructure your life to receive overflow without chaos. Increase demands capacity. This preparation is intentional. Overflow poured into an unprepared structure creates loss. God does not waste what He funds. Every adjustment you are making now, voluntarily or involuntarily, is positioning you to hold what is already approved. What took years to build will now move with speed. Stagnation is breaking. Dormant ideas are activating. Concepts you once dismissed as ahead of their time will suddenly find demand, support, and traction. Acceleration is not random, it is the reward of endurance. Divine collaborations will form naturally. You will not have to convince, chase, or prove yourself. Alignment will recognize alignment. Everything you touch will begin to grow, not because of effort alone, but because favor multiplies impact. Influence will expand without strain. Momentum will replace maintenance. This acceleration is not overwhelming, it is orderly. God's multiplication comes with clarity. You will know where to focus and what to release. Growth will feel intentional, not chaotic. This is kingdom expansion, quietly unstoppable. With this level of funding comes responsibility, but not fear. Trust has been earned through purity and lack. You did not corrupt yourself when no one was watching. That is why elevation is now safe. Humility is no longer hiding. It is grace under increase. You will stand tall without apology. This blessing is not the conclusion of your story. It is the beginning of a greater assignment. You are carrying the weight of the key, access, influence, and provision meant to unlock doors for others. Stewardship now looks like wisdom, boundaries, and intentional generosity. You are not being tested anymore. You are being entrusted. Walk in confidence. Heaven has already decided you are capable. This transfer is not subject to economy, politics, inflation, or human limitation. Kingdom funding operates outside earthly systems. Obedience is the currency. Alignment is the qualification. Expect unusual reversals, unexpected streams, and provision that does not make sense on paper. What God is releasing will not come from one source alone. Multiple streams will open: ideas, connections, timing, favor. This is why fear cannot follow you into the season. Fear attracts scarcity. Expectation attracts alignment. Agree with heaven's declaration, even when logic hesitates. This is not prosperity for ego. This is provision for purpose. And purpose is always funded. Remember the wilderness, but do not return to it. Let it inform your gratitude, not your identity. Keep your motives pure and your spirit clean. This is the first wave, not the final one. What is happening now establishes you for what is next. This is not encouragement. It is establishment. Heaven has spoken. The transfer is approved. The timing is sealed. The source is secure. Stand in agreement. Walk forward without apology. This was not earned. This was not negotiated. God funded it.